We are back. College basketball's back. Oh my God, I am so excited. College basketball season has returned on Monday. It's Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of College Basketball Weekly, America's soon-to-be favorite college basketball show. Luke Taylor here with my guy Sammy D, and it's been electric, but don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We just started the College Basketball Weekly. Appreciate the subscribes. We appreciate the 5-star reviews. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget about Full Court Network. Smash that. Also, too, we've got a really good guest over on the Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show. We got Coach Leon Rice from Boise State.
Coach Rice, man, just putting Boise State in just a dominating position year after year. Expectations are high for him, man. I'm excited to hear that one.
Yep. So college basketball has begun. I watched a whole bunch of games on Monday
How many did you watch? So opening day, 200 college basketball games.
How many full games did I watch?
How many? It's hard to watch them all, but I mean, you tune in. You're on East Coast time. There's quite a few West Coast games as well. Some daytime games as well. So
not many. I liked when ESPN last year, the year before, did the whole you start at noon or 11 or 9 and you go all the way, because that would have been fantastic. We could have actually done some live shows and stuff like that.
There was a year like 20 or 30 years ago. I was a kid, so probably 30 years. They did a 24-hour marathon on day one.
Yep.
We didn't realize how good we had it.
Yeah. But there were some great games. So one of the games that really stuck out, and you said this, and I'm going to post this on Instagram. It should be up there on Twitter. The safest or the best bet in college basketball is Vermont. Vermont went into UAB, the American Athletic Conference preseason favorite, and beat them 67-62. TJ Hurley dropping 20. But here's the thing. Tonight, they play at Auburn, and Saturday against Merrimack. You talked about, I said there wasn't going to be a lot of upsets, and I'm wrong. I'll eat my words.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? I mean, there were blowouts. There were some, there's a few games that went into OT. Shout out to Jacob Meyer and DePaul, and our alma mater. But
shouldn't have gone OT, though, let's be honest.
Not close, but it was good to see the fight, and a W is a W. But and then some upsets, LT. I'm going to be reminding you that all November, because there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah. So a couple other games I really liked. The 3:00 game was Santa Clara, St. Louis. I didn't know what to expect from St. Louis. Robbie Avila, I think you were telling me yesterday or earlier this morning that Robbie Avila is out for till what conference season you said?
Yeah, that's what the rumors are. That he left the facility on crutches. I think there's we're still kind of waiting. Maybe by the time this goes, this airs and streams, there'll be some answers. We'll be posting about that. But as of right now, he left the facility on crutches, and I know that he's out kind of indefinitely.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, bet on the Broncos of Santa Clara. I know we've had Herb Sendick on this podcast, on this show, or on the other show, Full Court Press, a college basketball show, but Adame Alpha Ball, 24 points. Cameron Tiang, 18 points. Christopher Tilley, the 7-footer, 17 points. The returner, Carlos Stewart, only had 2 points. So all WCC 2 years ago. They're going to be good. And they play Arizona State, which will be an interesting test for your boy, Coach Bobby Hurley, and the Sun Devils. But was really impressed with that. Game right after that was South Dakota State and McNeese State. I thought McNeese State would kind of roll over South Dakota State because they had some Coach Hendu, who we've had both these guys on the show, the other show, lost a lot. But Joe Saylor, freshman, 18 points, 4 for 7 from 3-point line. But you got to give it up to the big guy, Oster Clough, 14 points, 14 rebounds. Getting it done against McNeese.
Yeah, I mean, South Dakota State's going to be really good. Coach Hendu, who we've had on our show, Summit League preview show. He's going to be a hot name this season if he keeps it up. I mean, the players he brings in and the way he's able to develop those guys. I mean, it's off the charts for a mid-major, and I definitely see that guy getting up to a high major or power conference in the next year or two.
Yep. The one game I was kind of circled, and we've talked about this, is Memphis, Missouri. Memphis looks sluggish. They were down 42-32, and at half, ended up winning. PJ Haggerty 25 points. But the funny thing, some drama with Memphis that day. Tyreek Smith entered the transfer portal, came from SMU, and I think there was some issues with that, but he is no longer with the Memphis program. So you know what? Get rid of the distractions and play some basketball. So Penny Hardaway has a nice win at home against Missouri. UCF, is it the year of UCF? They beat ranked Texas A&M. Darius Johnson, 24 points. Does Johnny Dawkins got something going on in Orlando this year?
Yeah, I mean, UCF's, the past 10 years, they've had such a great athletic department as a whole. They had some really good football years, and they bring in Johnny Dawkins, who he's been hit or miss the last couple of years. He's had some good wins, but he's also had some losses where they should have won. This is a really good kind of opening day win, and, I hope he can kind of keep the momentum going. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, they're in the Big 12, right? It's the deepest conference. So every one of these types of wins like this is going to help that program. But they need to keep it up throughout the season.
Yep. Arkansas State played a thriller overtime. We're both high on Arkansas State. Coach Brian Hodson's Red Wolves, they beat Akron 80-75. Like I said, in overtime. Joseph Pinion led all scores with 16. Sharon Young, a newcomer for the Zips, had 15. Watch out Friday night, Arkansas State at Alabama. That should be interesting. The Ospreys, I love the name, University of North Florida. They beat the Gamecocks. The Ospreys beat the Cocks. 74-71. Jaylee Brown, 16 points.
On day one, right? North Florida beating South Carolina.
Yeah, but we've talked about South Carolina. I mean, they lost Michi Johnson. He transferred back to Ohio State. We're actually going to bring up Ohio State quickly. But Coach Paris, I mean, he's a great coach, and we've talked about that. SEC is tough this year, man.
It's deep. It's gonna be a bloodbath. Like once they get into conference play.
Yeah, and is Texas overrated? They lost to Ohio State, and Ohio State, don't sleep on the Buckeyes in basketball. 80-72. Bruce Thornton had 20. Micah Parrish dropped 17. And as you know, Coach Flanagan's not inviting them to the dance. So who knows how Texas will fare this year in the tough ACC?
Yeah, I'm gonna flip the script on you. I don't think Texas is overrated. I think Ohio State's underrated. I think they've got a great team, and I think that I think they belong in the top 25.
Yep. And the last one was the blowout, which was, I'm not surprised, but I am, Gonzaga, 101-63. Nolan Hickman with 17, Graham Mike with 15, and Braden Huff with 14. Could this be Coach Few's year to break through? I mean, this could be maybe his deepest team he's ever had.
Yeah, that was a late night game, and I watched most of it. A rematch of the 2021 national championship game. Like you said, Graham Ike, 15 points and 8 rebounds. The key to that stat, he only played 21 minutes. Like, talk about efficiency. When you're able to take out a guy like Graham Ike, like after 21 minutes against another top 10 program in the country, your team's good and it's deep. This is the largest win in Gonzaga program history against a top 10 opponent. And I'm concerned about Baylor. This is the first time.
They better pick it up. They got to play Arkansas this weekend.
This is the first time Baylor has lost by more than 30 points under Scott Drew. And, he's always been so respected for having his team ready to play early in the season. This was pretty concerning.
Yep. So that's it. So we're going to talk. You asked me a question of what coaches have something to prove. And I actually had a really nice sit-down interview over the internet with one of our guys, Coach Tod Kowalczyk from Toledo. And it's interesting because if you look at Coach K, as I call him now because Coach K retired from Duke, he is one of 5 current head coaches in the nation to have won 4 consecutive outright titles, joining Bill Self at Kansas, Mark Few Gonzaga, we just talked about, John Calipari, UMass Memphis, and John Becker at Vermont. He's 62-13 in the MAC the last 4 years, most league wins in the nation the last 4 years. The thing is, they won the last 4 regular season titles, but they have not been able to get it done in Cleveland. And we talked about that. So
there's definitely a few names on that list with coaches to prove. I'm excited to hear this interview that you had with Coach Todd. It's more for me. It's more than the last. And these are all guys who, they're not on the hot seat. They're loved by their programs, right? They just need to take that one last step. And I mean, to your point, Coach Todd, I mean, he's entering his 23rd season as head coach. He hasn't gone to the big dance yet.
Yep.
You know, so like, what is it? I'm excited about your interview with him because I think you guys are going to talk about like what it's going to take to get through Cleveland this year, win that tournament, and get that bid for a conference.
Yep. So let's hear from Coach Kowalczyk from the Toledo Rockets. All right, so we're back with Coach K. But since Coach K from Duke's gone, we got Coach K, aka Todd from Toledo. Hey, Coach. You know, of all the coaches, I'm going to be honest, not because you're here. I try to speak the truth, believe it or not. But of all the coaches that I thought were not going to have an issue over the offseason, one of them was you. And you reloaded. I mean, you lost some really key guys, you know, Raheem Moss, Dante Maddox Jr., Tyler Cochran. But you brought in some familiar faces. And I really, we were just talking off air a little bit about your scrimmage. You're not getting the respect you deserve, which is kind of comical because you have not been picked first in your conference. And you've won how many conference titles in a row?
We've won 4 outright championships in a row. 4.
Exactly. So you know what? But I think this is going to be the year for you. I know I said it last year, but I really wholeheartedly believe it. How excited are you for Toledo basketball this year?
I'm excited because I think I got a group of men that really are buying in. We're longer and we're deeper than we have been in the past. You mentioned the fact that we do have 3 transfer portal guys in, and we lost 3. Our top 3 scorers left. Dante Maddox is at Xavier, Raheem Moss is at Oregon, and Tyler Cochran at Minnesota. But I was talking with our media locally here, and they say, Todd, you're crazy if you tell people that you'll be better than you were last year. I said, well, call me crazy then. That's okay. I've been called worse. But I think we are better than last year.
You know what? And I like the 2 key pieces, Isaiah Adams from Buffalo and Seth Hubbard from Western Michigan, because they understand what the MAC is.
They do.
And here's the thing, what you have, which is really interesting. How many of your coaches, your assistant coaches, your colleagues played for you at Toledo?
Well, 2 of them played here.
That means something.
Yes, it does. No question. Going forward, if we could keep it that way for good, I'd do it. Ray J. Dennis played here. He wants to be a college coach, what he's done. Now, hopefully that's not for another 10 years, but I don't know if I'll be coaching 10 years from now, but I want to hire him.
Yeah.
Javen Simmons wants to be a college coach. I want to hire him. I like that.
Just wait, coach. Javen Simmons. Let's stay on Javen Simmons for a second. MAC freshman of the year. How the hell did you get him to come back?
Unanimous freshman of the year.
I know.
Excuse me. He loves Toledo. He loves my coaching staff. He's on the SAC committee. He's involved in the school. He's involved in the campus and the community. He's a coach's dream. He's a guy that just loves Toledo. So now, can we keep him again? I don't know. I sure hope so. I don't, but who knows with what, this day and age, what's going on. And we've lost a lot of guys, but we continue just to reload. And I think the biggest thing that while we've been successful is our guys get better. The one guy that no one's talking about, nobody, and that's Sam Lewis.
Yep.
He
had a nice game against Michigan.
He did. He's got a chance to be special here, and he's all a 6'5". He might be 6'6". He plays the 2. He's got length. He defends, can shoot it. And he really is good in the mid range. When his mind's right, he's really, really good. And I look forward to. And I think Sonny Wilson's got a lot better as well.
Yep. Anything you've done differently? I mean, you've kind of been left at the altar in Cleveland. I do not mean that disrespectfully. Anything different you've done this offseason over pass?
I don't. First of all, I don't take it disrespectfully because it's facts. We've been left at the altar quite a few times at Cleveland. We haven't gotten the job done, on that stage for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we've played really well, and the other team just played a little bit better.
Or free throw shooting was last year.
Last year was free throw shooting. That's happened to us twice in the last 4 years, where it just came down to free throw shooting. But the year before, to be honest with you, Kent State, close game with 5 minutes to play. They made plays down the stretch, and we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of that goes in, and we got to do it. Have we done anything differently? Yeah, we have. We've tried everything, but we do work with somebody who I think might be the best mental basketball coach, or not just basketball, but just mental analyst I've ever been around, and that's Dr. Spencer Wood. He's working with our team very, very closely this year, just with the mental aspects of the game, about playing with a chip on our shoulder, but not letting that affect our free throw shooting or whatever it may be. But we've tried everything. We've made adjustments. We really have, and I think over you look at our teams over the last, especially this championship run, you can't argue our best basketball is clearly going into Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And we have played well at Cleveland, and during last year with the free throw shooting we didn't, but we have played well and just haven't won the damn tournament.
I figured it out. I got an idea. So you have to get your mental coach to tell the kids they're not in Cleveland.
I think my wife would approve of that. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
We got to trick them.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about tournament expansion and what have you, and whether, I don't know if it'll help the MAC. MAC last year was the 24th rated in Ken Palm. MAC is really good basketball. We both obviously live in MAC country. I mean, we're also in Big Ten country, which overshadows it. What do you think the league has to do as a whole to kind of raise the visibility?
Well, the fact that we were 24th, I got to be honest with you, Luke, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's not right. It's and we were as high as 9 not too long ago. And why have we dropped? And this is just my opinion. Don't take it for anything more than just an opinion. I think we have fantastic coaches in this league, but I think there's a lot of coaches that are put in bad positions by their athletic directors to raise all this money to play guarantee games, have to offset it with playing non-Division ones. So they come into conference play with maybe 2 Division I wins or 1 Division I win in a low net. It's the top of the league has always been really good. There has not been one bit of a dip at the top. The top is fantastic, like it always has been. The bottom, even though those bottom teams have talent, their net rankings are so bad because of scheduling philosophies. Yeah. And it's not the coaches that are doing it. It's certain administrators. And if that gets me in trouble, so be it. I'm just speaking my opinion, and I think a lot of people would probably echo that too, but maybe now don't have the platform to say it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you look at the longevity of coaches. Coach Senderhoff, Coach Gross, Coach Steele now at Miami, Ohio, Coach Broyles at OU. I mean, you look at the coaches. It's a great coaches league and a great players league. And we've talked to Coach Senderhoff, we've talked to Coach Steele, Coach Gross. It's kind of that's what you're mimicking. Now, let me ask you this. So we talked.
Can I interrupt 1 second there?
Yeah, go ahead.
What you just said is you brought up the longest tenured coaches, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Also, the best programs in the league right now, correct? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's because the administrators have allowed them to develop instead of firing coaches every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why those coaches that you mentioned have the best programs. That's. I'm sorry for interrupting, but
that's the truth, though. It's the culture, right?
That's the truth.
The culture.
Yes.
I mean, what you've developed at Toledo, and what I can say with other programs too. I mean, you look at. You mentioned Kent State. Whether they're down, hurt, injured, whatever, they have a good, solid program. They're going to compete. Like they're going to bring it every night. Same with Coach Broyles. I mean, he believes it. He went to school there, what have you. So let me ask you this: with the NIT, we talked after your unfortunate loss last year. That were you going to go to postseason? I mean, you didn't get even an NIT bid, which is really disappointing because 7 Power 5 teams said we're not going to play in it, and that would have been a great experience for some of these players, especially like Javen Simmons, Sonny Wilson. You name it. The current changes they made this last week or so, do you like them, and does it help you anymore?
I'm not sure. I think this whole thing is probably set up more for the high major people. It does, and the latest changes, certainly gives a window. As long as your net rankings at a certain level, you do get an automatic bid to the NIT, which I think is helpful. And I think that's probably the right way to do it, because the way it was 2-3 years ago, if you won your conference tournament, but we're upset if you won your conference regular season, but we're upset in the tournament, you automatically win. Well, there's a lot of bad leagues that, that though those teams aren't very good. Well, the MAC's not one of those bad leagues, nor is the Missouri Valley. So now I think if they made it a little bit more appropriate that you have to have, was it a 125 or better?
Yes.
You get an automatic bid, which I think makes sense.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're moving in the right direction. And I can tell you this, I think the world of Dan Gavitt. I think he's, as bright of a human being as ever been around. So he's made some adjustments and tweaked it. And you look at, some of the people on that NIT committee, they're much different than the NCAA committee.
Well, I mean, you look at Phil, they just added Phil Martelli. I mean, you want to talk about
coaches.
Yes,
coaches.
Exactly.
No.
Well, and also not just that, but mid-major, high-major coaches, yes, which they understand. And I think that's the problem that happens a lot in this world. We're having people, I mean, you want to talk about youth sports, travel and youth sports. We could be on here for 4 hours because I'm in the thick of things. And I know you have had with kids and stuff like that too, is you're having people make decisions that really have no stake or had any stake in the game. And I think what they're doing, and I really hope, I'm really for NCAA tournament expansion. And the one thing I would love to see is 2 bids from the certain conferences. If you deserve them, let's say your top 20 Ken Palm or top 25, 2 automatic bids. So if you win your regular season championship, 11 weeks, you're judged over 11 weeks, you get a bid instead of just being judged over 3 days. And that's what's happening with mid-major and high-major basketball. You're being judged on 3 games or 3 days in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's why I think our jobs are much harder. I mean, you look at, I'll just throw out there, Minnesota or Northwestern or Iowa, whatever it may be, just finish 8th. Don't win the league. Finish 8th.
But if you're in the SEC, finish 12th, you're probably going to get in nowadays.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not saying that, our league is not as good as the Big Ten. I'm not. Right. I get that part. We're not as talented, whatever it may be, But winning a conference, it's all relative. Us beating Ohio U or us beating Kent-Arakan is no different than Michigan State beating Michigan or Illinois. That's why you're in a conference. You're in like-minded institutions, geographically quite similar, financially quite similar, enrollment quite similar. That's why winning a regular season should mean more than it does right now.
Yep. Well, Coach, you're going to stick on with us for one more second. Thanks for joining us on College Basketball Weekly. Check out Toledo Rockets. I know I'm going to see him in the flesh. Coach Todd, probably one of the most underrated coaches and underappreciated coaches, and I think he's going to do just fine, and I hope we're going to be dancing. All right, so what did you think about that? I mean, that's interesting. I mean, he's I love him, and the fact that he's using a team psychologist to discuss that, but he knows there's an issue. And he knows he's got to do it. And I mean, I love the guy. And he also talked a little bit more about the MAC and scheduling and the bigger picture. And I mean, he was just real raw and honest. So really like Toledo this year. I mean, he just reloads. I mean, he lost his 3 top players to some really good programs, and he just reloads. So give me your top first-year head coaches. If I asked to ask you, who are some of your top first-year head coaches that might have something to prove or that you're excited about, I guess, where would you go or who would you pick?
Yeah, there's a few names out there. They all have different reasons why I'm going to be keeping an eye on them throughout the season, why I'm excited about them in the season. The first one's John Jacobs at Florida Atlantic, FAU. Takes over the task of replacing Dusty May, who obviously took this program to a whole new level the past several years. Coach Jacobs comes from a championship background, right? Literally won a national championship in 2021 with Baylor. Spent the last 2 seasons as Scott Drew's associate head coach. That day 1 win, I mean, they big 33-point win against Indiana State, first game of the season so far. So I'm keeping my eye. I think he's a really good coach, very sound coach. I think he's going to carry on the tradition that Dusty May started there. My second one's Kevin Young at BYU. Really hard conference. This guy's just really interesting to me. Really young coach. He's interviewed for several head coaching jobs in the NBA, right? He's held various roles, like from professional to minor league to collegiate levels throughout the U.S. as well as international. He was the associate head coach of the Phoenix Suns last year. He was the highest paid assistant coach in the NBA last year, who's now he was on the short list to become the next head coach in the NBA. He's interviewed with the Houston Rockets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors, even the Suns when that vacancy was open, and he chose to come back. He chose to come coach at BYU. So I think he is going to be one of those coaches that players just love playing for just because he has that NBA connection. So it's going to be really fun to see what happens there. My next one's Jerry McNamara at Siena, who we've had on our coaches show. Everybody knows him as this legendary guard for the Syracuse Orange, never missed a start in 4 years, two-time All Big East first teamer, 2003 national champion with Carmelo Anthony. They had a big win on day one as well. 1 point overtime win against Brown. I'm really excited about him because he's already getting support from everybody who loves him in New York, right? There's a guy named Adam Weitzman. If you don't know who it is, he was Syracuse's #1 booster for over a decade. Last year, this guy cut ties with Syracuse and is now supporting Jerry McNamara at Siena.
Wow.
He's already written him a check for $100K this fall to build the program there, and he said it's going to be the first of many. I mean, he wants to see Jerry do really well there, and so when you see a program like Siena who's getting that kind of funding and that kind of new booster support, I think he's going to do really well with that program there. Number 4 on my list is Ethan Faulkner at Youngstown State. He's only 34 years old. Yeah. I'm going to tell you why I'm excited about this. You know, we had Coach Calhoun on the show as well, who Coach Faulkner is replacing. And Coach Faulkner's been a part of this program for 2019. He started there at the beginning of this program's best 5-year run, right? And so Youngstown State has had the best 5-year run in school history for men's basketball. They already the past 2 years, they've led the Horizon League in NIL fundraising. And now they just completed like this massive renovation to the team's arena. All the lower bowl seats are already sold out for the year. Like with the youth of Ethan Faulkner, the excitement from the past 5 years, the money that's being poured into that program right now, I think that they're going to do really well in the Horizon League. I think that the new energy with Coach Faulkner, the Zidian family arena, like it's just going to be electric throughout. It's going to be a really hard place to play this season. So I've got my eye on him as like one of these young up and coming coaches who's going to make an immediate impact and carry on the tradition that Coach Calhoun really streamlined for them.
Yeah. Day 1 game, they were
supposed to play against Westminster. Get this, the game had to be postponed because of an electrical outage. So you got to get the lights up and running there before we get the season going. But last on my list is Dru Joyce, from Duquesne. We've had a Coach Dru. We're calling the Duquesne Dukes the Dru Kane. As he's entered his first season, takes over from Coach Dambrot, who we've also had on the coaches show. I'm gonna kind of lead it up to you here because you had the pleasure of speaking with him the past couple days, and really, really interesting guy, great family background, basketball in the DNA. They did lose their opening game against Lipscomb. But what I always look at as first year coaches early in the season is, are they winning second halves? Right.
Yep.
A lot can go wrong in the first. Are you winning that halftime locker room talk? Are you out coaching second half? And even though they lost to Lipscomb, Dru Joyce and Duquesne won the second half of that game by 2 points, which I love. I love seeing that.
Yep. Yeah. We talked about first year expectations, scheduling. We talked a whole bunch of stuff. So it was really interesting to talk to Coach Joyce in his first year, what it's like with Coach Dambrot not around. How is his, kind of recruiting philosophy? We talked a whole bunch of stuff. So check out Coach Dru Joyce from the Duquesne Dukes. The Coach Dru Joyce era has begun at Duquesne. We got Coach Joyce joining us on the College Basketball Weekly. Hey, Coach, how weird was it this offseason with no Coach Dambrot? I mean, you played for him for 4 years. You've coached with him for years. how kind of strange was it that he wasn't in the building as much as he was in the years past?
Definitely a change in energy with him not being in the building. This guy used to get here early every day, pacing around the arena, pacing around the court, just watching every detail. I'm not technically the same as far as my regimen goes, but you know, you miss hearing his voice, you miss his energy, his excitement, his joy about the game of basketball, and also his expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got a couple guys coming back that I really like. They're just glue guys, high energy guys, great teammates. Kareem Rozier, I mean, he's a spark plug. Dixon, Jake DeMichael. Have they kind of said anything about the kind of the maybe not the cultural change, because you return so many guys? So I mean, obviously the culture is good and there's a lot of continuation with some of the coaches and yourself. But have they kind of mentioned anything like, man, this is a little bit not easier, but maybe lighter in some of the workouts because Coach D is such an intense guy?
Not really. I have my own fire and intensity too. So, when you've played for a guy like Coach Dambrot, and I've learned a lot from him, and then the base of me is just hard work, right? That's what I know. Like, hard work, it produces results, and so I don't know if they're off the hook at all. We make sure we get after it each and every day, and we try to make our practices, as tough or tougher than the games. That's our mentality in high level competition. We feel like if we practice at a high level and compete at a high level, it will lend into the game.
Yeah. So you had an interesting offseason. I mean, we kind of talked before this, but there really is no offseason. So great run by Duquesne in the A10 conference, which is one of our favorite conferences, especially because it's so college basketball centric. And then you had a nice little run in the NCAA tournament. You got named head coach couple, maybe a week after, I think it was. And how difficult was it? Because to have these conversations with some guys, I mean, some guys you knew were going to be going, like Grant and Clark, because of eligibility. But how difficult was it to recruit? Because it was like speed dating. I mean, was that the first thing you kind of focused on, was just trying to build a squad as soon as possible?
Yeah. Well, I knew exactly, the amount of players that I needed to fill the roster. And I think the most important thing, the very first step I took, was recruiting my own guys, making sure that I could retain the roster that was intact. Everyone decided to stay, so that was a plus. And also a bolt of confidence, man, that these young men believed in me, that they wanted to stay here and be a part of this program. And then, you move into the transfer portal, or not even just the transfer portal, man. There were some junior college guys that I looked over, and some high school kids. And, it is speed dating. It moves a little bit faster, but, I think you can determine what pace and how you want to move, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you could sit around and wait, but you still have to cover your bases and understand, does this player not only meet the evaluation from a skill set, but from a character set? Does it match? And if it doesn't, you have to walk away. You got to be willing to walk away. If it does, you continue on.
Right. And it's funny because I looked at your roster kind of configuration, and I thought Akron zips basketball. And I'll tell you why. You got two guys at 6'9", three guys at 6'8". You brought two players in, Jason Corbett and Maximus Edwards, who I really like, from George Washington. What I noticed about them, they both are rebounding guards. Edwards averaged 6.6 rebounds a game. Corbett averaged 7.7 rebounds a game. I'm seeing a lot of Akron when you played, toughness, a lot of 6'4", 6'5", 6 guys that can rebound, that can shoot. I mean, I like the Trey Dinkins pickup, Eli Wellborn. I mean, you brought shooter in Trey Dinkins. I mean, is that kind of your in the back philosophy? It's your light. It's that light, Drew. It's that light.
Listen, it's only right that we do this. It happened the very first time. It's a problem that has not been fixed, or I haven't put in the request to get it fixed.
Put that part of your contract, man. proper lighting.
It's just motion sensor, man. And I'm just still when I get to when I'm talking to you, I get to this peace of mind. I'm still, nothing happens. And
Yeah. There you go.
There into the conversation.
Yeah, just like home, you're still, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So, part of my philosophy is things that through my experiences, whether it was how I played with various coaches or what I've learned through coaches my time in college basketball. But I wanted to build a roster that has some versatility, that guys can move up and down positions, and also I think you have to have highly competitive young men, guys with toughness. And when I say toughness, not just from a physicality standpoint, but just a mindset that they can endure any type of obstacle that comes their way. So that's important. That's important to me when I'm evaluating young men and when I'm evaluating what's best for our team, and then just addressing the needs of what we lost. I thought we weren't a great rebounding team for majority of the season last year. We lost a big time rebounder in Fousseyni Drame. How can we fill that void? And I think Max, as from a guard position, is one of the best, and Jay Sean as well. He has the versatility of playing guard and forward. He's just rebounded at a high level his whole career. And there's something about rebound numbers. Usually if you can rebound, you do. And if you got a guy that has low numbers, no matter what you do, he's just typically not a good rebounder. Yeah.
I really like the roster configuration. I mean, I think the way you kind of built it also fits the A10 model. You look at a lot of these teams, whether it's Loyola, St. Joe's, St. Bonaventure, VCU, Richmond, they have a lot of like just high IQ guys, and fast too. The A10 is a fast conference. I don't think people really realize how up and down the A10 is.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's various styles throughout the conference, and I think that's what I appreciate about playing in this conference and coaching in this conference. Just the different coaches from Archie to Grant to Frank Martin. I mean, just up and down the list, and that's not even. I don't want to even cut anyone short.
Why'd you name all the coaches I didn't name?
Well, I had to give them some props, right? You didn't name them, so I had to show love.
I'm just making sure.
I mean, these coaches have won games. They've won championships. They've won. They've dealt with different roster configurations. They had to change their playing style. So, but you'll find some physical teams that just want to try to beat your brains in. Inside the league, you'll find your teams that want the ball across half court within 3 seconds, and are looking to get a shot up fast. And I think it presents a different challenge week in and week out when you're going to face these teams.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, that's for sure. So there's always a debate about mid majors and Power Fives. But I find that some people don't understand the Mountain West, the American Athletic Conference, and the A10 are considered high majors. I mean, would you kind of agree with that statement? I mean, in the mid-major poll by collegeinsider.com, they have 30 head coaches, and they're all mid-majors, not one A10 coach, not one Mountain West, not one American Athletic Conference. You would probably agree with me that Duquesne and the A10 is more of a high major conference than anything, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I really don't even like to get into the so-called titles of it. I don't know where they came about. Now it's like this thing, this category.
Social media, baby. Social media.
Yeah, that everyone's placed in. If you ask our guys, and if you ask teams within the conference how they want to portray themselves, and we're a basketball team that's willing to take on anybody, right? And we know to win it that, hey, you'll have to beat what's so-called a high major or a Power Five, as well as a low major team. Like you just have to come to play every single night. And I don't think there's a huge gap in difference between 1 to 300. I think if you mess around and you're not prepared, you'll find yourself on the wrong side of the scoreboard.
Yeah, I love it. So talking about maybe the titles that people like myself, I don't like titles, as you know me well. Your schedule, we kind of talked off air. I mean, you've got a really nice schedule. And I know it was probably really difficult to put together. I mean, if you're a basketball purist, you got Lipscomb with Coach at Cuff. They're predicted to win the A-Sun. You got Princeton, who's predicted to win the Ivy League. You got DePaul, who's much better in the Big East. You've got Milwaukee, who could easily win the Horizon League. You're playing South Dakota State in the Cayman Islands. Thanks for the invite, Drew. You know,
you didn't get that in the mail?
No, I'm still waiting for it. Towson, who's supposed to win their conference. UC Irvine, who's supposed to win the Big West. I mean, what the hell are you thinking? I mean, that's a tested schedule.
It is a tough schedule. But you have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge your guys. We're competitors at the end of the day. And, you know, listen, we do face a tough non-conference schedule with experienced teams that are predicted to win their league. But at the end of the day, whatever date those games are set, we just got to show up and play. We got to show up and play. And whatever the prediction was, it doesn't matter at that point. You know, I don't think they're walking around talking about that we're predicted 8th in the A10 conference. I don't think that's the message that the other coaches are delivering to their team is, hey, let's get ready to play, because this is the game that's in the present moment, and we got to be prepared to the best of our ability.
Yep. All right, last question. It's a two-part question. How many teams from the A10 are going to the NCAA tournament? And give me a movie script. I know your guy loves movies. I know you love movies too. How is the year going to go for the Duquesne Dukes?
A movie script, and I think the A10 gets multiple bids. I believe that.
Safe answer, Drew. Safe answer.
Yeah, it's a safe answer for sure. But I do believe that. I believe that this conference deserves multiple bids. Also, I think anytime you have teams that are winning 20 games in the regular season champ in this conference, they deserve to be looked at as an NCAA tournament team, not even a bubble team, right? As a team that's almost locked in. That's what I believe, because it's one of the better conferences throughout the nation, and it's deserving so. You know, I see teams that are finishing 500 and maybe less, and I don't understand where we forgot to value winning. You know what I mean? And if you're 500, that usually shows there's a level of mediocrity. But if you're above and you're winning and you're dominating a conference, I think it deserves to be looked at, and especially within our conference, the A10 conference. A movie script. Oh man, you always hit me with a question to just throw me off, and like I don't even remember the last movie I watched. It might have been Bad Boys.
Okay,
how did that end?
Okay. I think pretty good. They did a number 2, so that's pretty good.
Let's see. Let's go with that.
All right.
They've continued. It's been Bad Boys 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep. I like how they keep building upon their success. So let's roll with that.
Awesome. Coach Joyce, we appreciate it. Check out the Duquesne Dukes in the rugged and rough A10 and really check them out. They've got a really good schedule. Thanks, Coach Joyce, for joining us, and we'll be watching and cheering for Duquesne this year. Early season predictions for Coach of the Year. Give it to me.
I need you to kind of, what do you got for me here?
Nope.
You're gonna leave it on me here?
Absolutely, because you know my picks are trash.
Your picks are trash.
Oh, that's cold. I did leave myself up to. Well,
is it?
I'm working to be a better person this year.
Yeah, I mean, historically, they give it to every once in a while that you get thrown in there a mid-major, right? I do think it's going to go to a power conference coach this year. I am, man, I'm going to go I'm torn. I'll put it like this. I'm surprised that the last 2 years, Coach Hurley at UConn didn't win it. Right. With just kind of where he's built that culture the past couple of years. He came in second last year to Kelvin Sampson. I did think Coach Hurley should have won it last year. I think he has a chance at winning it this year. But I don't want it to be looked at as like, oh, we owe you from the last couple of years type thing.
Yeah.
I think right now my front runner would be John Shire from Duke. I think he's got the team to do it. And he's got the youth to do it. So if they can stay in the top 10 throughout the year, and if they win the ACC tournament and get to the second week of NCAA March Madness, I think they're going to give it to John Shire.
Okay. All right. I like that one. Yeah, I would say, that's a good one. I think that's not a safe one, but that's a good one. I can see UConn not winning and they give it to him. You know, what about like a Sean Miller, like just kind of off the cuff of Xavier? I think their team's going to be really improved.
I do. I think I have Xavier finishing second in the Big East this year behind UConn. And I know everybody has them behind Marquette as well. I think they have an overall and deeper team than Marquette this year. I think they're going to finish better than Marquette. I can see Sean Miller taking it home for sure. I think the hard thing with like the Big East, I think that, you know, unless you're UConn, you're still going to have like, there's a good chance that Xavier's and Marquette's and Creighton's, you're still going to have 5 or 6 losses in conference.
Yeah.
And that's the tough. It's really hard to give that coach of the year to somebody who has that many losses within your own conference.
Right. Another one you can look at too, and then we'll go to the next section, is Mark Few from Gonzaga. I mean, if he keeps this onslaught on, I mean, yikes.
No, I agree. I mean, Mark Few, he's won it before, I believe. And we'll have to look at how many people have actually won it more than one time throughout their career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he was on my short list of coaches who have something to prove this year. You know, I mean, you mentioned earlier in this episode, I mean, he has possibly the deepest team he's ever had. I'm putting in my mind, the top 4 West Coast, the WCC coaches, all in this like list of the WCC. In my mind, if the NCAA tournament started tomorrow, they should get 4 teams in there.
Yes.
Like Gonzaga, St. Mary's, San Francisco, and Santa Clara, right? Mark Few, Randy Bennett, Herb Sendek, Chris Gerlofson. I think they all have something to prove. I think they're all going to have great seasons. I hope people watch West Coast basketball because it's going to be one of the better conferences at the top this year.
Yep. So that should be a good segue. What do you want to ask me next?
I want to know what games you're watching.
Okay, so tonight I'm going to watch Vermont and Auburn. All right, I'm going to watch Vermont and Auburn and Lipscomb and Arkansas. And the reason why I'm going to watch Lipscomb and Arkansas is because Lipscomb, Jacob Augie, I think he calls him Augie Ognagovich, who sat out last year, was ASUN first team all pick the year before, went 30-10 against Duquesne, 30 points, 10 rebounds. So that should be interesting to see how he does against Arkansas. Friday night, you got UNC Kansas. I mean, that's going to be lit. Also, Purdue Fort Wayne against UCF. That should be an interesting matchup because they play a lot of things. UMass, West Virginia, both former coaches we've had on. New Mexico and UCLA. I don't know if I'm sold on UCLA, and New Mexico is bringing back Dent. And Patino's done a great job with the New Mexico's basketball program. So that will be an interesting one if Mick Cronin can beat that one late night. Saturday, there's a whole host of games. Tennessee, Louisville. No one's really talking about Louisville. No one really knows about Tennessee. Quinnipiac, St. John's is one that I could see Quinnipiac doing something against the Bobcats, doing something against them. Baylor, Arkansas. I don't know what to expect. After Baylor got just annihilated, then Northwestern at Dayton. Those are 2 teams a lot of people aren't talking about. Chris Collins and Anthony Grant going at each other at Dayton. Auburn, Houston late night game will be a good one. But the one I'm really excited to see, because they're 2 former people we've just recently had on the other show, Boise State, San Francisco.
That's going to be a good game. Like, I mean,
it's going to be a good test.
It's going to be a good test for both teams. So I want you to pick two of those games. I want you to pick Arkansas Baylor. Who do you have coming out on top?
Arkansas.
Okay.
They're home.
And then Boise State, San Francisco. Where is that game?
San Francisco. I'm going to pick San Francisco just because it's home.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Sunday, you got two people that have eluded us: California Irvine, the Anteaters, in Northern Iowa. Both two good teams. Big West preseason favorite, and Northern Iowa is supposed to be predicted second in the Missouri Valley. And Michigan Wake Forest. Now, a lot of people aren't talking about Wake Forest. I mean, they had a really good year last year. They've got Hunter Salas coming back. They got Trevon Spillers, who we've had from App State. And then Michigan, I just don't know what to expect from Dusty May. But what I will tell you is there's a lot more home games in this. I do not like neutral site games. I don't like these NTE neutral site games. I think there's just no fan. I mean, I want to hear the band. I want to hear the cheerleaders. I want to hear the noises. And I just feel with these MTEs, like I was watching a lot of the Ohio State, Texas, the South Dakota State game, which kind of a home game, but like Santa Clara playing St. Louis, they're quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like you want to be excited, first week of basketball. And, when you're watching games on TV, you just hate seeing empty stands. Right.
Yep.
And they almost feel like exhibition games to some regard. But at the end of the day, they do count. And basketball season is here. It is here.
Yep.
So you want to play a fun game?
Sure.
Do you have a pen and paper?
Yes.
All right. Because I want you to pick. I'm going to give you names, and I want you to tell me your favorite. All right.
Okay.
These are college basketball players.
Okay.
Who I love and I know you're big on names, right?
Yep.
All right. So and I want you to pick, you can rank them however you want, right?
Yep.
So the first one, his name is Always Right. He's a guard from Rhode Island.
Always right, never wrong.
There we go. There we go. Second one, Po' Boy King. A guard from North Carolina Central.
Okay.
Next, you have Gob Gob, a guard from the Kansas City Kangaroos.
Okay.
Oregon Ducks have a forward named Supreme Cook.
Okay.
That's just a smooth name. And then the last one is a Utah Tech guard forward named Tennessee Rainwater.
Okay, so I gotta rank these between Always Right, Poi Boy King, Gob Gob, Supreme Cook, and Tennessee Rainwater.
Yes, sir. What do you got?
I wonder who named these children. So I'm gonna go with Supreme Cook sounds like a freaking pizza. All right, I'm gonna go with Tennessee Rainwater. I think
number one?
Yeah, number one. I think that's just smooth. And then I'm gonna go Poi Boy King.
Po' Boy.
Poi Boy King. And then I'm going to go Supreme Cook, Gob Gob, and Always Right. No, Always Right's going to go fourth. I'll put Gob Gob at 5.
Love it.
Yeah, that's my team. All name team. LT's all name team.
You're big on names, man.
I know. I know. But that was great. I appreciate you putting me on the spot like that. Tennessee Rainwater. I love that name.
There you go. So let's get him on the show.
Hey, I'm excited for going into the first week 1 and then finishing up next week with week 2. But great show. I thought we got a lot of stuff going on. So I really appreciate Coach Tod Kowalczyk and Coach Dru Joyce joining us on the College Basketball Weekly. We hope you enjoyed yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We have yet to get a 5-star, so we appreciate that. Appreciate the love as we try to grow this. Shoot us maybe some comments on Twitter, Instagram, or instant message us if you want to. There's stuff we want to talk about. If you have any questions, we always love doing that. And we'll be back next week. And don't forget the Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show. We got Coach Leon Rice over on the Full Court Network. We're powered by the Full Court Network. So, all right, Sammy, peace out, brother.